This is going to be the best intro
ever.
You mad at me because I'm eating Cheeto things.
No Cheetos.
It's quite amazing.
Ask not what your
Voice.
can do for you.
They're not Cheetos. They're hip peas.
Which is some hipster version of a Cheeto Puff.
These are quiet. These are very for a podcast.
I just want everyone to know how regularly I have to remind Max to eat before the podcast, not during.
Sometimes I get so snacky on the way to record.
I mean,
And sometimes the only thing that will satisfy that is jalapeno chips or hip peas, apparently.
which smell so good
I'm sorry, I'll wash it down.
when you have no, I'm kidding. The jalapeno chips are the ones that are the offenders.
Those are so good. They're so good. Jalapeno. The jalapeno kettle chips.
Yes.
Yeah. Jalapeno.
Jalapeno? Is that the?
It's American.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome to the Fast Ones.
Thanks.
I'm your host, Max, here with my buddy Mike.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Good.
We just had the Qatar Grand Prix.
Yes.
I was listening to those announcers pronounce it Qatar.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's right.
The British
It
just
could
make
be
up
right.
their own pronunciations for pretty much everything.
Yeah. Charles Leclerc. Even though he says Charles.
And even though the sport is from England, Formula One.
Formula.
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
Yeah, there's lots of pronunciation differences.
There was lots of people all over the place in Qatar.
Yes.
But before we get into it,
Yes.
we welcome you to the show. And I think we mentioned last week that we'll have some Halloween-themed intros.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Last week I struggled to think of things.
Yeah, I hit you right on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, this time should be a little bit easier.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll keep it a bit.
Been working on my reaction skills. Been doing some
Good.
of those like light games that you see in Drive to Survive. Trying to like,
but with topics and improv.
yeah, just so that way.
Categories as fast as you can.
Candy, Hershey's, Kit Kat.
You're really good.
Yeah, I've gotten good.
You're going to be really good at this one.
Okay, good.
Okay, so of the classic Halloween horror monsters,
Oh,
I'm going to give you some, and we're
Okay.
going to figure out which driver or team principal would best play that monster in the movie.
okay.
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 So first one, the Mummy.
Oh, the Mummy.
Maybe Daniel Ricciardo,
Okay.
back from the dead.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's back.
It's thematic.
It's
for you.
thematic. Yeah,
Okay,
he's
got
coming
you.
back. He also had a bandage on his arm. So he's kind of a mummy.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I would go with K-Mag. Same story. Hulk.
Oh, okay. We do have these drivers that came
are
back
all
from
kind
the
of
dead.
revived from previous years.
Yeah.
So that would be my pick.
Yeah. A mummy's very similar to a zombie.
Yeah.
So if there was a zombie personality, if we had a zombie, who would play the
Lance.
zombie? Yeah.
Or
He's
Oscar
kind of,
Piastri.
kind of brain dead.
Yeah.
Lance is kind of brain dead.
Yeah.
Oscar's just kind of like chill.
Just quiet, chill.
He's quiet and chill. Yeah. Okay, next.
Okay.
Vampire.
Vampire.
Who would play the Dracula or the vampire?
Gunther? Could he
You think?
be? Yeah, because of
Because of
Nandor,
what?
the Relentless.
He does.
He's Gunther the
He does
Relentless.
have that What We Do in the Shadows vibe.
Yes.
I mean, I was thinking more sexy, not Twilight.
Oh, I mean,
Interview with a Vampire.
Nandor did
I'm thinking-
sparkle himself too.
It's true. I was thinking like Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, vampire. I was thinking like Pierre Gasly,
Okay.
Esteban Ocon,
okay,
the
yeah.
French guys.
Yeah, the French dude's Charles.
And maybe Lewis. Throwing
Yeah.
Lewis in there.
Charles would be that like kind of emo vampire though.
He would.
and
yeah.
that would work. He'd be a Twilight vampire.
I was just say, yeah. He's Stephanie Meyer's vampire.
Totally.
Totally. And
Yeah.
Lewis has showed up to the Met in like very fancy fashion.
Super fancy
He would
fashion.
fit into like a vampire
attire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big vampire awakening.
Totally.
revival.
He'd
be
have
there.
like the sleeves with the frills.
Yeah, he already has them.
Yeah, he's worn them.
Every week he shows up with a son. He's old, but he looks young.
Yeah,
There's some eternal youth going on there.
for sure. Same with Fernando.
Yes. Okay, next. Werewolves.
Ooh.
See, this is where I think everyone in Haas could be a werewolf.
All right.
They have just werewolfy features.
Well, and they just like a full moon, they come alive. There's these rare occasions where Haas shows up to the party. Yeah.
Haas will surprise you.
You just show up with a pole position in Brazil.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good reason. Nico has a steely, foxy, wolfy look.
Yeah.
Kevin Magnussen, again, he looks almost like werewolfy.
Yeah, he's got the beard.
Scruff
He could be
and
Teen
beard.
Wolf.
He could be Teen Wolf.
Yeah, Hulk might be like more werewolf.
Yeah.
K-Mag's Teen Wolf. I don't know why, but that just works for me.
It works. Frankenstein. I already know. I know who it is.
Is it?
It's a tall, square-faced guy who probably repels women.
George Russell.
I would say George Russell.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah. But like, is it young Frankenstein? Is it Abby Normal Brain for George Russell?
Peter Boyle, Frankenstein?
Yeah.
We need to hear him sing Putting on the Ritz.
Yeah. It would be a good
Am I missing
rendition.
any of the classic Halloween monsters?
Oh.
I think that's about it.
Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
Is he a classic monster?
I mean, from Ghostbusters, so
Yeah.
I kind of associate it with.
Who would that be? A Zach Brown?
Or Otmar. One of the Americans for sure.
Yeah. And just a ghost. Who would be a ghost? Just classic ghost or a skeleton.
This would also be Lewis. Because
Why?
he seems to disappear from press conferences or Beyond the Grid. And like he's like the YouTube series, Grill the Grid series and stuff like that. Like
he's elusive.
Occasionally is in those.
Mm-hmm.
So
Fernando Alonso could be a vampire.
Yeah, I think that fits him.
He also looks like he could be a werewolf. Fernando Alonso could fit into anyone.
He could fit into any of them.
Yeah,
because he's the changeling of sorts.
Yeah,
he could be any villain.
Yeah,
and I would be afraid of him. You play any of them, great. It would be great.
Well, thanks for playing that dumb game.
Okay, yeah, that was a great game.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Moving on, we have a race recap to go over.
Yes,
and it is a longer weekend because we have free practices, qualifying, sprint racing, more qualifying.
Yes,
and then a real race,
and then just the most confusing format ever.
Yeah, a champion was crowned.
Yes, he was on a Saturday.
Yeah, we called a McLaren victory.
We did.
And the right one happened.
Yes.
So we have lots to talk about.
We have a ton to talk about.
Mike, how do you want to start? Because you have been itching to start since I showed up to the studio today. Yeah.
I think we start with Friday qualifying. We'll just go ahead and start there.
Okay, let's go.
So Friday qualifying was interesting for a couple of reasons, but we'll keep it short and brief.
Yeah.
Both McLarens were eliminated from the third spot for track limit deletions in actual qualifying, which took place on Friday.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
My favorite part of this was that while Oscar Piastri was standing having a interview with Naomi Schiff, she goes, I regret to have to inform you that you have received a 5-second time penalty for track limits, and so your time was deleted.
Jeez.
You'll be starting 6th, so thank you for the interview, Oscar. He handled it like a champ. He's like, well, all right, then.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it seems like this track had a lot of people sliding around everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with this track? Are we going to get into...
we can start there.
A little part.
This is a great way to start.
Yeah.
Because they just recently redid the track, and it was crazy slippery.
Okay.
All the drivers were complaining about like no grip, really having a hard time. In addition to that, the track is already notorious for having a lot of dust and sand.
It's in the middle of the desert.
It's in the middle of a desert, and one thing we know at least about sand dunes is that they're created from high wind and
and Carlos Sainz, he even made a comment as he was like going on the track. He's like, my dad would love these conditions because his dad races in deserts and for Audi,
unpredictable sandy surfaces.
And he's crazy good.
Yeah.
So it's like, there was sand on the track.
It was sand on the track, and it was already no grip to begin with.
Crazy. So
the McLarens get knocked out. Everyone was having times deleted. It was such a challenge. Then we go to Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So already having our qualifying session, we start with the sprint shootout. But before the sprint shootout...
Yeah, I'm getting confused. So let's keep going.
Okay, so Friday sets the qualifying for the race.
Okay.
And then Saturday they do sprint shootout in the morning, which is qualifying. And then they run the sprint later in the afternoon.
That's right. Saturday, it's like its own little race date.
Yes.
It features every little mini race in qualifying.
Totally. So it has qualifying and then the race. So sprint shootout, before they started, the FIA and Pirelli have met and spent all night looking at the tires and realized that the tires would not last as long as they thought. So Saturday morning, they woke up and they said, hey, all the teams, we kind of have to wipe the table clean a little bit, and we're going to have to change track limits. So they repainted one of the corners and narrowed it up. So all of the drivers were already having times deleted on a normal track.
Yeah.
And they repainted the line to keep the drivers off of the curb.
Oh my gosh.
To narrow the track. And they notified them like with
after
no
they'd already
time.
done lots of practice and qualifying.
And a qualifying session.
And then they had enough time to repaint the track?
They repainted it morning of.
Jeez.
George Russell, who is the president of the Drivers Association after Vettel retired. I know.
Nerd.
Yeah.
Nerd alert. I didn't know.
Yeah.
He's the hall monitor of the drivers.
He totally is.
What a weirdo.
Yeah. Hall monitor.
I'll do it.
I'll step up to the plate. I'll defend the drivers. That job is perfect for me.
Do I get extra points for the championship?
Just one.
Yeah.
Just one? Can I have one?
No, you lose cool points. That is hilarious. I didn't know there was a drivers association.
Yeah.
Is that what you called it?
It's like a guild.
A guild. Of course it's a guild.
I'm going to make it sound so nerdy now. It's actually so important. But because George is the leader of it, it's for sure a drivers guild.
Do any of the drivers respect him as this leader?
I mean, his friends, Lando, Albon.
Yeah.
That's it.
Does Fernando recognize him? He's like, not my president.
He's like, it's totally that
he's
guy.
He's like, oh, look at him. He's out there playing.
He really thinks he's making a difference.
It's like when your little kid wears like a business suit. He looks like a little businessman. Like when people dress up their dogs.
Is that George's Halloween costume? Is to be president?
Yeah, he's looking good. He's looking.
He looks sharp.
You go get him, George.
Muy guapo.
Anyway.
Yeah, so George is president of the Drivers Association.
Okay.
And he was definitely fuming. So were the drivers in general. They were like, we qualified on this already. How come we're changing it?
Yeah.
So they revised the track limits between turns 12 and 13, and they scooted it in.
Okay.
And it's like a double right-hander.
Okay.
So on the outside of the track, they moved that line in a few feet.
Yeah.
And so where they've already calibrated, they've simulator run on the track, all of these things. It was a massive thing to just hurl on the drivers and say,
because if I
you're
get
gonna
this
have to run it this way.
Like trying to explain it to myself, is that like if you mess up one little corner, that like changes the racing line for all the corners leading to it and after it, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So like they need to come up with a whole new racing line.
Your braking point's different. Your turn-in point is different.
I mean, that's great for the fans.
Yeah.
Because it's something new.
It adds a ton of variables.
Also, I would have rather had tires that didn't last the race.
And they didn't.
Yes.
So that was another part of this, but we're not quite there yet.
Sorry, spoilers.
No, yeah. Way to go, Max. We haven't even told them yet. But this is Saturday. So Saturday morning, they find that out. They let them do a reconnaissance session for 10 minutes.
Like another practice?
Yeah. They sent all the drivers out.
They just can't name it practice?
Yeah.
Reconnaissance
mission for the drivers.
George was like, I'll allow it, but can we name it reconnaissance mission?
I don't want to call it practice. It's gonna confuse my mom. She'll be watching.
I'm a secret agent now. I'm on a reconnaissance.
I'm on a reconnaissance mission.
Yeah.
I work for MI6. They get their recon mission.
Yep.
They go out, they do 10 minutes of figuring out the track. And then they come back in and they start the sprint shootout. Sprint shootout takes place and pans out way different for the McLarens this time. They figured out their track limits, a few other things. Not the case for everybody, but definitely a cleaner qualifying session than the actual race qualifying session for at least McLaren. Max didn't have as easy of a time. then we get to the sprint. I think we just jump right to the sprint race.
Yes.
Which was epic. I loved every second of that stupid race. And I think you and I have talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
People have had such a dumb opinion in my opinion.
Yes.
Of the sprint races.
Your opinion is that people have dumb opinions of the sprint race.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Should I rephrase that?
No, it's like a little Russian doll of opinions.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good sound effect.
Yeah. So I think that people have been so negative towards the sprint races, and I'm not really sure why.
Yeah. I mean,
I get that it does feel a little bit separated now that they've done this whole like qualify and race on Saturday thing.
Yeah. But still, we're getting more race.
And there's points.
And we're getting wilder racing.
Right.
Because there's no pit stops. We're just running gunning, which is fun.
And I think that this season has provided some of the best highlights from sprint races.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, when I think back to Spa, the sprint race was epic.
Yeah.
And when I think about Qatar, I'm like, sprint race might have been a little better than the race. And there was tons of action. There was lots of things happening on track. Once again, track limits changed. Learning a bunch about the tires and how the surface behaved.
Yeah.
And how cool was it that we kind of just threw them into a race with one practice session?
It's pretty rad.
Yeah.
I'm all about it.
2 qualifying sessions and 1 practice session.
If they're really good drivers, they should be able to just drive on a track they've never seen before.
Right.
We're paying them a lot of money. They should be able to see the corners and just go for it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Tons of fun to watch that.
Yeah.
So, but obviously the best part of the sprint weekend for us was, you've already teased it.
We teased a little bit. Yes.
We were right.
We were right.
I just take a moment to recognize.
I don't know if did we call it, or did we just pray and hope that Oscar Piastri would get a first place before Lando Norris.
Before Lando.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me what the race circumstance was. He still won a freaking race before Lando did.
Yeah, it's so great. It's so great.
It's unbelievable.
And I think that I am getting to know Oscar Piastri more.
Yeah.
I might pronounce his name correctly.
Someday.
We're
not quite there yet.
But when we first met him, it was like you came into the sport in a bad way, because he just took out Daniel Ricciardo.
He took out one of the most popular and also one of the most talented dudes on the grid.
Yeah. And so already, kind of weary of this dude.
Right.
And then it was easy to make fun of him because he seemed pasty and just like boring.
And he likes cricket. I'm not going to relent on that one.
Yeah. And so it was kind of annoying to have this new Australian in the sport, and the old Australian was gone, and it was kind of awful.
Yeah.
But see in him act, like getting to know his personality now, it's kind of great.
It's sort of funny how dry he is. He's
so
a very dry person.
And to win a race and to just be so nonchalant about it. I'm like, this is it. This is his bit.
This is his thing.
It's probably him just making fun of the whole thing. I don't know, but it's a good bit.
Yeah, it's like an ironic, quiet humor.
Yeah. It was great. He won that race. Lando still hasn't won.
Still no W's.
Oscar got second in the real race too.
Yeah. So let's also clarify this really fast. 2 Australians have won races at McLaren.
Yeah.
Before Lando has won a race for McLaren.
Rethinking those British drivers. Get some more Aussies, some more Kiwis.
I think that there is something to be said about that.
Yes.
And I mean, honestly, watching that race, he seems like he's a veteran.
That's the thing. He is looking good as a rookie.
It's crazy when you compare like what we've known as rookies
this year
to him.
In this year, look at the other rookies, Logan Sargent and Liam Lawson.
Yeah.
They're not in as fast of cars.
Or Nick DeVries, which started the year out and was eliminated, right?
Yeah. So they weren't in as fast of cars, but what Oscar Piastri is doing with his car, outperforming his teammate who's been in that car for
developing
7 years
and developing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how long, but like he is now overtaking Lando Norris. That is wild.
Yeah.
He's got some skill.
He's got some skill, and he's proving it pretty much week in and week out. And Lando even said it. And I think that he's got to get through some sports psychology in this way. But he was like, if I hadn't made the mistakes I made this weekend, I'd have been the one that won the sprint. And he said that he's like, and even in qualifying for the race, if I hadn't made those mistakes, I could have been in contention for it. but his lap time was deleted. He started 10th. And so he was way down the order.
Jeez.
You know, so.
I mean, but everyone who doesn't win the race can also say that exact same thing.
Right.
If I only had a perfect drive, I could have won the race.
Well, and that's why I got to be perfect.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this is what it is. But Oscar, I think, has earned.
Oscar's in Lando's head.
Yeah, and he's earned it. And suddenly he's within tenths qualifying, and he's the one that won the sprint. And there's just so many things that if I were Lando, I'd be like, this is a little nerve-wracking.
Oh, yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking.
I got to prove myself here. So really cool to see. Also, it's only the second time this year that we've seen somebody win a race that wasn't a Red Bull.
Oh, my gosh. I keep forgetting that.
So here's my favorite part of that is that the people who are the number ones of these teams, both Lando and Charles, have been beat by their number 2.
Hey.
In this season's
Carlos
weird anomalies.
And Oscar just showing him up.
Pretty awesome.
Showing up to the race and just crushing it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So epic sprint race. Now we have a new number 1 at McLaren and a new number 1 at Ferrari. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then the bummer of the sprint race was the Haas accident with Hulk, Ocon, and Sergio.
I mean, we can blame who? Ocon?
It's difficult.
Because
it's a blind spot.
Hulkenberg's.
No, so Hulk is...
He has so wickedly cool driving.
Oh, yeah.
He is so good.
He's so freaking good.
Dude,
yeah.
Nico Hulkenberg is so rad.
He's so good.
And watching right the corner that took place right before the corner where they all crashed.
Yeah.
Doesn't he like dip behind Ocon and cut him on the other side?
Yeah. He's got a switch maneuver.
That is a wild move.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that over and over again. I was like, to do that in a Formula One car while turning a corner.
Yeah.
He totally juked Esteban Ocon.
Yeah.
How would you even?
It's called a crossover. And the idea of it is that if you brake earlier, you can get on the throttle sooner. And so if you can mix it up, switch where you are on the track, you might be able to get a better exit.
It's so cool to watch.
So it was really cool.
Go watch the recap of the sprint race.
Yeah.
And check out Hulk's move on Esteban.
It was
right
great.
before Esteban just pooped the bed and just ran right into Hulkenberg. He tried to switch back on Hulkenberg and I don't know what he did.
Well, and here's the thing about being in Sergio Perez's position, and this is why this is considered a racing incident, and nobody was really to blame, is that those two are mixing it up.
Yeah.
And because when you're getting crafty and you're not running the fastest line, you're slow.
Yeah.
Perez is not battling anybody. And so he's got perfect corner exit heading into the next one.
Okay.
So suddenly you have all three side by side.
Okay.
We've talked about this before. Formula One drivers don't have a spotter, which is to me the most wild thing ever.
Okay.
And Ocon goes to the right, thinking Nico is also going to juke right to get the corner.
Yeah.
But doesn't realize that Nico is sandwiched by Perez. And so when he moves right, thinking Nico for sure moved right, he just took all three of them out of the race.
Yeah. So who can we blame? Perez?
I mean, technically it was...
We know it's not Haas. It's either Ocon or Perez.
I blame Ocon for being a little bit spatially unaware in that way.
Yeah.
And Perez for being a little opportunistic, thinking, I'm going to go on the outside of two cars that are battling into a corner. That seems like a bad idea.
That Perez just can't get around a Haas, which is ridiculous. But like... Oh man, and I was thinking, it would have been so cool if Hulk was just a little bit quicker on the brake, and you could have seen Ocon and Perez just crash right into each other.
Yeah,
that would have been rad.
No, it would have been so great. Just brake and just let them crash into each other,
and then he somehow gets through,
and just that would have been epic.
I would have loved that, but no, and that took him out. Right, Hulk was out.
I mean, he finished the race.
Yeah,
but he had to get a new
Perez
wing.
Was out.
Yes.
Oh, man, when are we going to talk about Perez?
Yeah, Perez had a huge hole in the side of his car on fire. And here's the thing. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
You can't blame him for the accident, but you can blame him for where he qualified. And I think that kind of thing is what puts Perez in a situation where it's like, yeah, you were dicing with mid-pack cars in a car that's way faster than them.
Yeah.
And so you sneak up on the outside of a couple of dudes who were fighting every inch to get positions. You're way faster. You put yourself there.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. Yeah, because from my point of view, he's crashed out. Like, that was ridiculous. But he shouldn't be back there in the first place.
Should have been in the top 5 at least.
At least, yeah.
So, a bummer for him. We know he's trying to overcome some demons.
In the same race.
This is rough.
And then instantly, Max becomes world champion.
Yep.
How does that feel for Sergio Perez? As soon as he's in the gravel, he knows Max is champion.
Yeah, they've already
Instantly.
come over the radio and like, Sergio's out.
Yeah.
Way to go, dude.
Yeah.
3-time champ.
You're in the middle of a race. You're like, I just won a championship.
It's like there's 5 races left. Isn't that how many there are at this point? And Max is already champion.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Has there been a championship crowned this early before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's just the worst.
Honestly, I've stopped paying attention to Max since June.
Right.
We knew it.
Right.
And it's nice to have our focus now on Perez.
Right.
And Hamilton. We talked about it last week.
Right. So I think that that's a great transition opportunity.
Okay.
To move on into the race.
Okay.
You ready to talk about the race?
Uh-huh.
All right. Tell me your thoughts on the opening lap. I'm curious because I'm over here.
Yeah.
And I have a heated opinion. Very heated opinion.
My very novice point of view is that, okay, so we saw the Mercedes crash into each other. From my point of view, Lewis just seemed to cut in. Like he was going around the outside of George, similar to what we just talked about with Hulkenberg.
Ocon and the whole situation.
And George was kind of like stuck in between these two cars. And Lewis cut that corner real close right after he got in front. Like,
yeah,
from my point of view, it would seem to be Lewis's fault. Also, Lewis, there was a video of him apologizing to George after the race. And
it was
like,
cute.
You are such a good sport. And he is.
I'm so glad you guys are cute.
But I say that, and you bring it up as if there is a bombshell.
There is a bombshell.
It's like Lewis was blindfolded.
You didn't know?
He said, I could do a race totally blindfolded.
George knew about it.
It was very...
He knew.
It's very kung fu.
Yeah.
He'd been training.
Been thinking about it for months.
Wait, is it Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme with the blind?
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd been training just to feel what cars are around him.
And to hear it sense.
Okay, I'm diverting way too far.
Yes.
But do you think if we took all the cars off the track, right?
Yeah.
We would just put Lewis right on the track.
Yes.
Could he make it around the track without looking?
I bet you he could. But I don't know about Qatar.
Yeah.
But I bet you if
like
you gave him a lap around Silverstone, he could probably do it blindfolded, which is nuts.
Yeah.
I think that you could probably do that with like Fernando, Sebastian, Lewis, some of these guys who are so...
Lance, Joe.
I was going for the seasoned crowd, but sure. But the guys who have been doing it for so long, I bet that there would be some ability to do that.
Lance did some of it unconscious. Shoot.
We're not there yet.
Okay,
We're not there yet. We can't get there
later.
Yeah, we got to get there.
Our last segment will be Lance, the unconscious driver. Stick around.
That's a good one. We're actually going to have that segment each week from here on.
But Mike is dying. Mike is dying to explain his thoughts on the Lewis-George Russell incident, which I think is fun, that George and Lewis are getting into it.
Yes.
It's great.
It's good for the sport to have two Mercedes drivers hate each other.
Yeah.
Straight up. But here's my take.
Okay.
And now I know that literally everyone agrees. Lewis made a mistake. Lewis even admitted to a mistake. So let me go ahead and just say Lewis made a mistake. But before we assign full blame to Hammy,
okay,
before the race, strategists sit down with the drivers.
Okay.
And they're going to talk about opportunities, how the race is going to shake out.
Okay.
Right? Lewis Hamilton starts on the soft. George and Max are both on the medium.
Okay.
Okay. One thing that's really important about this is that Lewis does not have the same tire strategy opportunity as George.
Lewis is going to take off like a bullet.
He's going to take off like a bullet, but he's going to be on the back foot fast because those tires are going to wear out.
Okay.
And the other two are going to come alive and he's going to have to pit. Before the race even started, this is the other part of this. I forgot to mention it. We have to talk about it.
Okay, Gary.
Pirelli said that they could not do more than 18 laps on a set of tires.
Okay.
So after doing the sprint race, they were like, holy crap. They did any more laps than they did today, and these things would have exploded.
Okay.
So no more than 18 laps, which then put all of the teams in a situation where they're like, well, this is at least a 3-stop race. All of a sudden.
Yeah.
Strategy completely changed overnight. And so they're all working through this.
Okay.
With that in mind, Lewis starts on the soft, Max and George on the medium.
Okay.
George knows. He freaking knows that his teammate is on the soft tire.
Yes.
He is going to launch like a bat out of hell.
Okay.
Like an F-18 off of an aircraft carrier. That thing is going way faster than the two of them.
Okay.
I
see where you're going with this.
A massive, massive difference between those tires.
And you watch that start. Lewis does.
He's a rocket.
He goes fast.
It is in Mercedes' best interest for Lewis to get to the lead as fast as possible. For George's race, it is in his best interest to let Lewis get the lead.
And Lewis was going to take the lead.
He was there.
This is not looking good for Mr. President of the Hall Monitors.
Of Verstappen, okay?
Yeah.
So Lewis going around the outside, getting alongside Max is the opportunity that existed. It was the opportunity to get ahead of Red Bull, control the pace of the race, and give George a fighting chance at Max.
Yes, okay.
The launch takes place. George and Lewis both get a great launch, a slightly better launch than Max does. And so both of them are on attack with Max.
Right.
Max kind of moves to block off George.
Yeah.
And Lewis is coming around the outside. But George, what I'm going to call a little bit of an entitled ego trip,
Hall monitor,
moves to the outside of Max instead of going for the inside line. And to me, this was like no way, Lewis, this is mine. I'm going after Max.
Oh.
Not realizing the opportunity.
Like, Rufio going up against Hook.
Hey, why would you do it?
When Peter Pan's right there.
That's what I'm saying. Why would you do it? You got to get stabbed. You got to die. It's going to be sad as hell.
And then
all of us don't want this.
And then George dies in Lewis's hands.
Yeah.
I wish I had a team principal.
This got really dark. But look, they've talked through this.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, George, Lewis gets to the lead. We want that. We want Lewis in the lead. We control the race if second Lewis gets out front.
Yeah. And like we mentioned before, Mercedes wants 1-2 finish or double podium finish. McLaren's been doing it. They're catching up in the Constructor Championship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By controlling the race, Sergio Perez is so far behind them. There's only one Red Bull versus two Mercedes.
Yeah.
So the two Mercedes can strategize each other to hold up Max, to find ways to be able to be like, when do we pit? I can undercut. I can overcut. There's different methods that they can play with two cars. Point being that
you have these two Mercedes against Max.
They get their best opportunity for a strategy play if Lewis gets to the front.
Yeah. Red Bull is also thinking like our best case scenario is that the Mercedes crash.
Right.
And it happened for them.
Okay. And so here's my next point.
Yeah.
If George had gone to the inside rather than going to the outside to block Lewis.
Okay.
The likelihood that the two dudes who crashed into each other, I don't know how many times in 2021, and have had little to no opportunity to do that since.
Yes.
Getting side by side on Max Championship weekend.
I know where you're going. Yeah.
The likelihood that those two would crash into each other is sky high.
Yes.
Sky freaking high.
Not only does every single fan want that.
Right.
But that's in George's best interest.
George,
again.
Your best interest, let them take each other out.
Yeah, they're going to.
Park it.
Yeah.
You can be third.
Yeah.
Just give it 500 feet.
Yeah.
You
know Max, when he gets in these situations, will lose his mind.
Of all people that triggers Max, Lewis is going to trigger Max.
Yes.
And Lewis is not going to give an inch, which means those two are going to crash into each other.
Yeah.
Why move left?
Why are you going after Lewis?
Why move left?
Yeah. See, now I know why you were so antsy to talk about this.
I know Lewis turned in too soon and was being aggressive, but the optimistic Lewis Hamilton turn in that his teammate would back out and let him go for the charge comes from a place of, we talked about this. Yeah. I'm on a softer tire. I'm going to attack. It's good for both of us.
Yeah.
And he was practically throwing the race away because he didn't have the same tire allotment, that George had a better strategy opportunity, that George had the win.
George... What you don't understand is that George is the president of the drivers.
You're right.
And he's entitled to first place all the time.
Whenever he wants it.
Whenever he wants it.
Like, now
it makes sense
Toto.
why he's like, I was destined to podium. What was his words that one time? He's like, I was forecast to podium. I want to win.
I'm the driver president. Give me the podium. I mean, the worst part of this all was that like he was whining and complaining over the radio. Yeah. And Toto, who's at home in Monaco, he's not in
Toto's
Qatar.
Not at the race?
No, he's at home.
Oh my gosh.
Comes over the radio from home and is like, head down. Head down, George, enough. It's like being told off by the principal.
Yes.
But like it's Star Wars and like the Emperor showing up in the little blue transmission and being like, enough already, George.
You know that it has to be a serious thing if they need to zoom in the boss to be like, can you just get back to work?
He's just using TeamViewer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mercedes has that. And he's radioing in.
Yeah.
Like this was just their opportunity actually.
Yeah, Toto finally had like a weekend off and he's like, oh, it's Qatar. We have a good strategy, Toto.
We're going to be good.
We're going to crush it.
Yeah.
We have like they're like right up at the front of the qualifying. It's going to be a good race.
Yeah.
You just sit back, watch the race. It happens. They're like, hey, Toto, we need you to yell at George.
We need you to tell George off really fast.
And he gets off his like wakeboard that he was riding.
Right.
And just has to yell.
It's like, ugh. Enough, George. The thing that was so interesting about this to me is that everybody, the press, everyone jumped down this avenue of being like, Lewis turned in. Yeah, it's Lewis's fault.
I do whatever the media tells me.
It's okay. It's okay. Fake news. But here's the reason that I was so passionately sitting there screaming at my television is knowing it wasn't a guess. It wasn't. There was no question in the mind of George if Lewis was going to be faster going into turn one.
Yeah.
And so not giving that window seems like a very childish, entitled mistake.
Yeah.
Lewis turned in, shouldn't have turned in so early, but I'm not sure it's his fault.
See, now in that video of Lewis going after the race and apologizing to George, being like, hey, it's my fault or whatever. I noticed it was, I think it was posted on Mercedes' story.
Yeah.
It was also posted on George's account.
Yeah.
But not on Lewis's.
Yeah, he's not going to do that.
He's not going to do it. I also, in the earlier day when I saw it, and I was like, wow, Lewis is being a really gracious sport. He's a good sport.
He is good at that.
And I love the idea of George posting it because Lewis hugs him and just being like, oh man,
see how cool I am?
7-time world champion gave me a hug, man.
He had to
He's
apologize
my best friend.
to me.
Yeah. Me, the president of the driver nerds.
So that's it.
So
that's
amazing.
it. End scene. That's my point.
No, that's a good point. And this is why the fast ones is so amazing. No, for real. Because all I do get from Reddits and from Instagram and race recaps and things that like I see before I come and talk to you on this podcast is Lewis cut in. It's clear to see.
Right.
And from all of these like newcomer perspectives where we're just watching the race and seeing these cars hit and collide and fly off into the gravel. It's amazing.
Right.
And we form that opinion. But like I don't know how to dive deep enough yet to be like, oh, there is a strategy. They did have a meeting.
Right.
That's amazing.
Right.
And it's just great. Like I said, it's my third favorite thing about watching Formula One now is whenever George Russell, entitled.
Yeah.
And entitled for a better strategy, still manages to ruin it.
Still spoiled the race for everybody.
Yeah. Do you think Drive to Survive will get that episode right?
Interesting. I mean, I think the last point of it for me is that it's the media all saw one thing because that was the right move. We don't need to blow this up in front of everyone.
Yeah.
The whole world doesn't need to know that that was George's fault. It's better that they don't.
Yeah.
But behind closed doors, the conversation between Toto, George, and Lewis is going to be, you know what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to take you out of the race. I wasn't trying to crash. And I was trying to do what was best for the team. And it doesn't seem like you played along.
Yeah.
I think that we need to figure that out.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how it plays out from here. But it seems as though the only thing stopping Lewis from P2 in the championship is George.
Right. Where did Sergio finish outside the points?
He finished 10th.
So got one
and it was
point?
because of Lance's track limit penalty that Sergio graduated into the points.
So Perez got a point. I think did Lewis get a point in the sprint race?
He did.
I was just going to say, it seemed like the distance between second and third didn't change at all.
Didn't move much.
Yeah. Yeah, let's shift gears. We're still in the race, though.
We're still talking race.
Still talking about the Qatar
Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's the next few points.
So, yeah.
First one being driver complaints about the heat.
Oh, it was so hot.
This is Lance's unconscious, air quotes, moment.
Oh, yeah.
This is what he was
Should we bring people up to
about.
speed on what I was talking about with the unconscious Lance Stroll?
Let's move into that.
First of all, it's so sad that these millionaire drivers have to drive in the heat.
It's just super unfortunate.
How dare we put them through these conditions?
Man.
Anyway, Lance had an interview. Leo Lance had an interview. He was really smug in this interview. I don't know what the context was, but he was just like, yeah. I was like, it was hot out there. I like passed out. And they're like, oh, wait, you passed out? He's like, yeah. Like, duh.
Yeah.
All the time. You pass out.
I do it like 4 times a race.
Which is wild to me.
You're just passing out, Lance? How do you do that?
How do you do that going 200 miles an hour?
Yeah. This explains Singapore a little bit more, actually.
Do you save it for the straightaway? You just like clock out and then like you're back.
He's like
back down.
He's sleep trained himself
down.
On when he pushes the DRS, he just out. And then as soon as the flap closes, it wakes him up.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
I mean, I can see getting very hot.
Yeah.
And getting so like tired, but you have the drink. I mean, maybe he got delirious.
Yeah.
I do not think that he lost consciousness. He is not passing out in a rocket ship.
He would have crashed.
He would have
crashed.
Yes.
Lance crashes fully conscious.
Yeah.
So unconscious Lance sounds like a very dangerous thing on track.
Yeah. So him closing his eyes would be deadly.
Now, where I'll give him some credit.
Okay, so that's the background.
Yeah. Where I'll give him some credit. Logan Sargent voluntarily bowed out of the race.
Yeah, he left. He wasn't feeling good.
And few laps earlier, he came over the radio and was like, I give you my word. If I can't do it, I will voluntarily quit.
Mm-hmm.
And he came over the radio and he was like, I can't do this anymore. Logan had the flu all week leading up to the race.
Yeah.
Throw in 50 degrees Celsius, which is, what is that, like 120 degrees?
Yeah, that's wild.
Fahrenheit?
Yeah, that's wild.
Plus,
that's hot there.
Humidity like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. Is this like another Singapore? Is it hotter than Singapore?
It was. And normally when they have done Qatar,
they
do it in winter because it's so hot.
Oh, dear. So they weren't prepared
did
at
it
all.
in fall. And they found that tire degradation was way higher than they expected.
Temperatures are different.
And temperature was so hot.
They're like, oh, this is why we do it in the winter.
Yeah.
We forgot.
Fernando Alonso came over the radio and said, my butt has never been this hot, guys. Like, can you dump water on me during the pit stop?
Really?
And they were like, we're not prepared for that because you're coming in next lap. And he was like, okay, we'll think of something. And
really
came in, did his pit stop, no problem. Like, but they didn't dump water on him, but he went back out and soldiered on.
Wow.
You know, Alonso had a trip through the gravel. He had a rough race, but he ended up still getting I think he finished 6th.
Dang.
Which was impressive given how much of the struggle he was going through.
Mm-hmm.
Esteban Ocon, I think, finished 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
He threw up in his helmet all over himself during the race.
Oh, is there
because of the exhaustion.
Can we find that face cam that like I mean, I have access to that F1 TV. We can find that driver cam and just like
in
just
the
like,
helmet.
Yeah, it's just like a view of the road and they're just like and then just like the outside of him just trying to rip off the visors and nothing's changing.
Just a tear off.
He's like it's in my mouth. That is horrible.
So bad.
Poor Esteban.
Yuki Tsunoda said that he lifted his visor to just get air in the helmet and then sand got in his eyes.
Everyone was having a terrible day.
See now.
Oh, this is horrible.
It was
I feel bad about what I said earlier. This is awful.
No, I don't. I mean, because Lance didn't pass out. But if he did, he probably should have done what Logan did, which was just be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So brutal physical race. Super hot. All of the drivers said it was the hardest, worst race ever.
When was the last time you saw an NBA player throw up because they were running so hard?
Never. That's what I mean.
All just to say.
Yeah.
Formula One rules.
When people go,
motorsport is awesome.
These guys get paid $50 million a year and they're not even athletes. I'm like, give me a break.
Yeah.
Give me a break. That is brutal. So glad that everyone came out of it okay. Logan and I think 3 other drivers went to the infield care centers.
Right.
To be treated. I think that it's just to be checked.
Get fluids in you.
Get like IVs and a few other things just to recover because it was so brutal. Anyways, super gnarly. Man. But it went along with your Lance thing, so I thought I would throw that out there.
Yeah.
But here is the next piece of this race that I think is interesting and how we move forward from here. We've talked about it. We're going to continue to talk about it. We're Haas fans.
Yes.
Alfa Romeo got a double points finish.
I saw that. They jumped in the points.
It was a big jump for them with the double points finish.
Oh, dear.
And so that, for us, was not great news.
No, they just jumped over us, right?
They did. I'm going to look at it so we have the actual numbers in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Alfa Romeo is now 16 points, Haas 12. Now, here's where I'm not giving up hope.
Right.
Moving from 9th to 8th is $10 million in prize money.
Okay.
It is a big drop for Haas to go down that far.
Yeah.
But there is only 4 points between us.
Mm-hmm.
The Austin Grand Prix is where we are introducing the RB-inspired Haas.
Yeah, we're putting Red Bull into that fuel tank.
Exactly. We're pouring the liquid Schwartz
yes, exactly.
into the tank. And this thing is going to be a rocket ship. But for real, I do think that the B-Spec Haas, which is what they're calling this, is our opportunity to not only recover 4 points, but to earn ourselves that 10 million.
Yes.
And move back ahead of Alfa Romeo.
I love this.
I will give Valtteri and Joe all the credit all day long for finishing in the top 10. They deserved it. The whole weekend.
Yeah. They
were fast and were in the top 10. And I kept looking at the quali results being like, so when is someone going to out-qualify the Alfa Romeos?
Wild. Yeah, because they haven't been up there.
Yeah. And so they had a really good run. I was super impressed. I think that there is a ton of opportunity for us to overcome this. I am not super worried about it.
Yeah, we have plenty of races left to overcome that. If they introduce this B-Spec car in COTA and it crushes it, like there's still 4 more races after that to continue to hone that car and get it faster and faster and get the drivers used to it more.
And with that, I think that the way that we continue from there is to discuss constructor standings, driver standings, and what the rest of the season looks like.
Let's do it.
So,
okay, Max, he won the championship.
Won the freaking championship.
He has a cool new helmet that the FIA gave him.
Nico Rosberg said, here's a helmet that I gift you. I love that he's not in the FIA, but for some reason I feel like we need to put him there.
Yeah, it's gross.
It's that meme of Obama giving himself a gold medal.
Yeah, that's Nico Rosberg.
That's Nico Rosberg every time he talks.
Every time, yeah.
Here's how it shakes out. This is insane. Red Bull 657. They won the constructor championship forever ago.
They got it.
Japan.
Yeah.
It's over.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they had a celebration and everything.
Yeah. Mercedes is at 326.
Okay.
Ferrari is at 298.
That's pretty close. Where does McLaren sit? Who's next? Now because McLaren's been double podium finishing, whatever, second and third. A lot.
Right. So, okay, but okay,
I'm getting ahead of things.
Yeah, so 298 is Ferrari, which is 28, right? 28 points. Then 68 points below is Aston Martin.
Oh, wow.
At 230.
Alonso had a lot on his back that he was pulling all season.
It's all of those points of Fernando.
Alonso.
Yeah.
What a champ, dude.
He has been carrying the team.
What a champ.
McLaren is at 219. They are only 11 points off of Aston Martin.
Wow.
But this is where this gets crazy interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that McLaren actually can potentially dwarf Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
There's a possibility with the remainder of races left.
Right.
If they double podium in all of these.
Yes, which they have been.
And right now they're the second fastest car.
They seem unstoppable.
Right. There's a good chance McLaren goes from where they've been, 6th, 7th in the championship, all the way to 3rd.
Yeah.
Which will be the gnarliest turnaround that I've seen in a single season ever.
Yeah.
Aston Martin has had the opposite trajectory.
Dang it.
Which is such a bummer.
Yes.
Because I was
they
really
were
cheering
looking
for
really
him.
good at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And we loved seeing Alonso on the podium.
And I hope that day is rapidly returning. I really do. But anyways, McLaren to me, I don't think that they're after Mercedes. I don't think they'll get there. I don't think it's possible unless they won every race from here. But I think that Ferrari is within a shot.
McLaren finished really high one year.
Yeah.
And what place was it? 3rd or 4th?
In 2020, McLaren was P3 in the constructors and beat Ferrari. So they would be returning to form.
I remember being very stoked about McLaren at that time because Daniel Ricciardo had moved over to them. They had just taken 3rd.
Yep.
So like, ooh, this team is on the rise.
Totally.
They took a little dip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Daniel won Monza, but it was pretty much the only noteworthy thing in 21.
Yeah. The McLarens weren't as fast. They've somehow figured the formula out right now.
Right.
They got that sauce working.
If they get all the way to 3rd, they will equal their best in recent years. And it'll also send a statement to the rest of the field that next season, McLaren is gunning for Red Bull.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Crazy. I
would not have picked them at the beginning of this year.
No, not at all.
To be the ones who were challenging Red Bull for a championship.
And they seem to have just such a giant dry spell of any sort of real lasting success.
Totally.
Little moments of brilliance.
Totally.
And then just gone.
Yep.
And so that would be exciting. It'd be fun to just see another team instead of Mercedes and Red Bull.
Right.
That's all we've seen.
And even though I do like Ferrari, it'd be great to see McLaren return to a form that is a noteworthy team in Formula One. It's been ages.
Yeah. I don't know. But aren't they one of the most winning teams?
Before Red Bull was Red Bull,
yeah,
McLaren was one of the top 3 teams.
Yeah.
So before the RB team was in that breath, it was Ferrari, McLaren, and then there was, Williams or, some of these other teams. Lotus, Renault.
Yeah, all we know as newcomers to the sport is that McLaren is just this orange team that is a midfield fighter.
Which is still something that's recent to me. I'm still not even super used to the papaya, to be honest.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because that the most gorgeous Formula One car of all time is that white with the red chevron look in it.
Right.
The Ayrton Senna car.
Right.
It's gorgeous.
Well,
and that's a McLaren.
Right. And then the car of my youth was the Mercedes and McLaren partnership, where the car was black and silver, which looks a lot like the Mercedes of recent years. And then they went to the chrome car, which is what Lewis and Jenson Button and Fernando and all of them drove. And then when it changed hands and went to Zach Brown, it went to papaya. It has been a color that is familiar for McLaren fans of the 1960s. And 70s.
Okay, yeah.
But not as recent of times.
And side note, it's easy to see the cars on the track.
Yeah, I actually like that the car is orange.
Very easy.
Because it's easy to identify. More so than when the Mercedes was black and the Aston Martin was green and they looked identical.
Yeah.
Those few years were really hard to tell them apart.
They still kind of do it now.
Yeah.
Do you think Romain Grosjean is constantly hitting up Daniel Ricciardo to be like, I can tell you what to do?
I think that Romain Grosjean is constantly hitting up Toto Wolf being like, hey, remember when you said that I could do a test drive for Mercedes? And you haven't kept your word.
There's just a blocked. Toto's just like blocked.
Just blocked number. He's like, Romain calls me every week. just assumes it's Roman.
Was Roman Grosjean in Qatar?
He was.
Didn't he? I follow him on Instagram, and he's like, "I'll be there to see you."
I'll see you.
And Toto's just like, "Damn it,
I'm gonna stay home.
I'm not going." Yes.
We figured it out. Now we know why Toto
Why aren't you
stayed
coming
up.
to the race, Toto? Just kind of avoids. There's just kind of avoid a conversation.
Still trying to not cash in that test drive.
There's someone who's gonna want to talk to me. I can't even be in the same country.
That's the news of this week. The real
I'm
news.
Just Toto's like, I just got to take my sick days.
Yeah.
I'm just not feeling good.
And Roman's like at the door as Lewis and George crash into each other, like knocking, like, ah! And then it happens, and he's like, not now.
No, I'll be back.
It's now about time.
Hey, is Toto here? That's really good.
Go away, Roman. Go away.
I'm called the Phoenix.
The Americans love me.
People are calling me Phoenix.
Next weekend's free practice session would be a great time to test me in front of Americans.
Oh, poor Grosjean. It was a great weekend.
It was. I loved that race.
I think we were anticipating, honestly, an uneventful race.
And it turned out awesome.
Turned out great.
Yeah.
It seems like every time we were like, oh, this is going to be a boring race. It's
Yeah.
been the best race of the season.
Yeah, totally.
So there's a lot of stuff that happened. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music,
Amazon Prime.
Anywhere you listen to podcasts, we
Check
are
'em
out
out.
there. But then also watch us on YouTubes. Thanks for following us. Email us. Follow us on Instagram. There's lots of stuff to do.
Also, we'll be at the Grid Cars and Coffee on the 21st.
On the 21st.
So keep that one in your little pocketbooks.
Yeah, if you're in the Utah area, come hang out. Come say hi. We'd love to see you.
We'll see you then.
Okay, bye. Peace.
One small
Podcast.
for man, one giant leap for
And just like,
in the helmet.
yeah, it's just like a view of the road, and they're just like.